Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this newest video in my Magic of Divination series. Today we're going to be talking about using your cards as portable altars, or essentially casting a circle with your tarot or even oracle, potentially, deck. So let's get into it. Now, the caveat to this series in general is that this is really a series for those of you wanting to dip more into the woo side of your divination practice, or to somehow create a blend or a merge between your witchy practice and your tarot practice, or in other sort of ways explore the Venn diagram between these two areas, right? The sort of woo things and the card things. And I really like making videos like this because there's a lot of overlap in my own practice between tarot and witchy or woo practices. There's places in which they overlap and there's places in which they're kind of separate. But what I want to explore here is ways to approach our cards in more magical ways. And this is one of my favorite ways to work with cards. And it occurred to me a long time ago, really. I was doing a particular ritual. If I can find any footage of it, I'll pop it up on the screen for you, but I don't know if I'll be able to. In other words, in any case, what I did is I realized that I could basically set up a full altar for myself, or a full circle for myself, using cards on a tabletop. And this was really helpful to me when I wanted to do workings around, say, charging a particular object, where my ritual was really taking place on the table versus out in a space around myself. I wanted to create a bubble or a container of energy on my table for something, and I realized I wanted to do that differently. Now, I was going to say in the olden days, wow. Back when I was a lot younger, when I was a little baby witch, setting up an altar or setting up for a circle always looked kind of the same. I would have elemental representations. I would have something to represent the dualistic look at deity. So something to represent sort of a divine masculine, something to represent a divine feminine figure. So a god and goddess kind of situation. That was sort of my home base when it came to casting circles or creating sacred space. There's a lot of ways to do this, but that is the lens through which I'm kind of looking at this, but I'm going to also share with you some alternative ideas also, if that particular setup is not your jam. But first, let me show you the simplest way to do something like this if you have this little deck. Now, I have talked about this little deck a lot. It is my favorite sort of magical tool. Kit in a box, spells in a box. I don't know how you want to describe this, but for magical working, I really like this. Now, this isn't tarot. It's actually sold as one of those little rock pool mini decks, and it's making magic. There is a full-size version of this with round cards, but I still prefer this version. So each one of these symbols each one of these sigils is displayed on the left, and on the right there's a little write-up about what each one stands for. So what happened for me one day is I was looking for a way to create a simple circle with all those representations on it that I could really charge with intention. You can really see where I've used some of these, put them under candles and stuff. They've gotten pretty messed up, but it's really lasted. So what I like to do when I'm creating a circle is look for elemental symbols and then also something to represent the divine. Now, that could be any one of these. There's several symbols here that I'm like, oh yeah, that would work. So here's one I'm going to pull out, the sun. That's assuming there's also a moon, and I can't remember if there is or not. Oh, here's a goddess. We'll pull that out. Then we've got water. Here's one that just represents all four of the elements. There's fire. There's air. Aha, there's our moon. There's earth. Ooh, the triple spiral could potentially work. Oh no, there's spirit. That's cool too. That's probably good. So let me show you what I've got here. So if I were to want to create a circle using just this little making magic deck, let's zoom us back out again. So I have spirit, which could sit in the center. If I wanted to do a complete elemental based practice, right? I would stick spirit in the center. I would put earth, up to the north. I'm going to set the moon over here. I'm going to put air to the east, or to the right of my circle, fire to the south, and water to the west. Now, these are the traditional sort of elemental placements directionally that I was sort of, brought up in as a little baby witch. So what I would do, you could literally do something this simple where you just have spirit in the center, and now I've essentially got all of the elements. So I could work with these in a circle the same way I would work with candles or any other elemental representation I'm using. So I could call in the guardians of each spirit to create this circle. Obviously, I'm working in a pretty tight space here. I could also put little candles, like little charm candles, on each one of these sigils to sort of hold that space, hold that energy, or little tea lights, because sometimes we don't have colored candles, and a little tea light goes on that circle really nicely. In fact, let me show you. Let me just grab a tea light. Yeah, it's like basically the exact right size to fit on these little sigils. So the tea lights are really great for that. I typically have either charm candle holders that I'm using or something like that, but this is like perfect. Like, I might actually do this from now on because that is so perfect. Anyways, so the idea is that you can either work with candles. You could put a crystal on each one of these places to build your altar. This is really nice also if you're sort of in the broom closet and you're doing witchy work and you want something kind of subtle. This is so small and compact. You can tuck this into a drawer, pull it out when you want to set up your circle. It is the minimal amount of stuff on the table, right? And so you can literally build your circle the same way that you would build a circle in physical space, only now you have this energetic space. Now, if you wanted to pull in the divine masculine and the divine feminine, then maybe instead of spirit, you could pull the goddess card and the sun card, for example, to pull in that divine masculine and feminine. Or you could pull the sun and the triple moon to pull in that sort of celestial energy. And you've also got either the elements or spirits. So there's lots of different ways you can work with these cards. But the idea is that you can literally hold each one, and this is probably what I would do if I was in this space, doing it with these cards, and only these cards and no other accoutrements, right? Is I would lay them all out, and I would probably begin my circle in the east, and I would hold this card, and I would meditate on the east and what the east is bringing in, and I would invite that energy into this space. And then I would set it down, and I would move to the south, and then I would move to the west, and then I would move to the north, and then I would lastly bring in these two energies. That's typically how I would do it. But this is like totally open to your imagination and however you want to craft something like this. But this is what I would do with the Making Magic cards. Now, not everybody has this little deck. And while I think it's incredibly versatile and really inexpensive for how much use I get out of it, it's really a wonderful little tool for me. You might not have that, but probably if you're watching my channel, you have at least one tarot deck. So let's take a look at the same kind of idea with the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot. So this, I had already separated out the cards and they're in the back. So let me pull those out. Now you don't have to use the same cards that I'm choosing. And that's what's really beautiful and powerful about this. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But you have the same sort of representation. So here you have the aces, which you could use as your elemental representations. So in the tarot, the sword is air. So you would have, at least, excuse me, in this deck, there are some decks that swap swords and wands. But so I would have the sword here for the east for air, the wands for the south for fire, the cup for the west for water, and the coin for the north for earth. We're a little bit squished, so we're going to bring these guys out so we have room for other things. Now you could also swap that out and use the pages. If you want to think about the elements as elemental guardians, the pages are wonderful guardians of their element. You could also use the kings or the queens or the knights, of course, but I like the pages. So then you could do the page of cups, the page of swords, the page of pentacles, and the page of wands, if that feels energetically like it makes more sense or will make it easier for you to call in or invoke that element. And then for the divine masculine and feminine, of course, we have the emperor and the empress. Or you could pick other cards. Maybe you like a queen and a king pairing for this. Or maybe you like the high priestess and the hermit. These have very divine feminine and masculine vibes too. Or maybe you want to stick with celestial themes and stick with the sun and the moon. And these can both make wonderful representations as well. But let's say you're doing a particular working. Let's say you want to do a spell for yourself around building more confidence. Then the cards you pick would maybe be totally different. Maybe the cards you pick. So let's find a confident card for air. Ooh, I like the Queen of Swords. She's pretty badass. She's pretty confident. So maybe I'd pull her in for my air card. And then let's find one for the others. So let's find confident for the other three elements. Let me think. Ooh, I kind of like the Knight of Wands, but I've got a better one in mind for that, I think. Ooh, I love the Queen of Wands for confident. Oh, apparently I'm going to go with queens. Interesting. But I think for earth and water, it's going to be a little different. In fact, for water, I think I want the Knight, because the Knight of Cups pulls in this vibe of like, I'm going to follow my heart no matter what. Like, I'm just going to do my thing. I'm still thinking about earth, but let me find the cup, the Knight of Cups real quick. Because yeah, I think he makes a really good he's very bold from an emotional perspective, right? He doesn't stop and think so much about, you know, consequences. He's like, I'm just going to charge ahead and follow my heart. So yeah, there he is. So he's very confident, watery energy, I feel like. And then for earth, let me think. I feel like it's probably going to be the king, actually. So let me pull out my king. I think he was down near the bottom. Maybe not. See, this part I didn't really prep for. There's the 10. The 10's pretty good, but it doesn't have that confident vibe that I'm looking for. There he is. Okay, so then our king for the for that. And I would probably stick with Emperor and Empress cards for divinity in that case, right? And then I might actually pick a card for what I'm hoping to achieve with that confidence and stick that in the center. Obviously, I would have more space. Ideally, I would spread out more, but I'm working with a camera frame. So what am I hoping to accomplish with all this confidence? Maybe I want confidence so that I can land that job I really, really want to get. So maybe I would pull a card like the Six of Wands to represent the success that I'm after. The whole point of the confidence is I want to be able to really be sure of myself, really be forthright in my communication, very direct. I want to bring my full heart, and I want to know what I'm worth. And I want to do all of that to land this job and have this recognition for my abilities, for my skills, right? So you can start to craft a virtual, not a virtual, because we're doing this like physically, but you can craft a tabletop altar and build an actual circle, invoking in the energies of these various cards to create the energetic environment or the energetic container for the work that you want to do, which I think is really, really cool. And I don't necessarily think it's enough to, it could be for some of you, but I don't necessarily think it's enough for me to just lay the cards out and be like, okay, we're doing it. It's more like I need to lay each card out with intention, and then I need to sit with it, right? So I know those aren't the right ones, but like I would literally, like I mentioned, pick each one up and think about what that character, what energy I'm invoking from that character to hold space in that part of my circle and so forth. And I would do that all the way through until I've built the container. And then once I'm in there, I might burn a candle, or I might just meditate on everything in front of me and really attract and create that powerful intention for the working I'm trying to do. Now, whatever deck you have, you might have one that's even more suitable for this kind of work. I wanted to show you what it looks like with the Rider-Waite-Smith, but this is one I've used like this in very, very recently, actually. And I also separated out some cards, so let me pull them. Did I get everybody? I think so. Okay. So one of the reasons I just really happen to like the imagery of this one a lot. So Pentacles, we have this pomegranate. I love that image. This is the Rainbow Heart Tarot, the Pocket Edition. And a pocket deck is great for this because A, you have more space on the table if you're using a smaller deck, but also it's more portable. So there's earth, there's air, there's fire, and there's water. And like before, I could also use the pages. Now in this deck, I don't really like the pages as much as representatives. I cannot find my words. I really am drawn to using the Hermit for Divine Masculine. I like the wisdom energy. I like the teacher energy. It feels really good to me. So I like that. Or the Sun. But I love this Empress for a Divine Feminine. And I also really love this High Priestess. I think both can really work depending on the working that I'm doing. But I love them both. I also really love using the Sun and the Moon for obvious reasons for this kind of working. I think they work really, really well like that as well. So this one is one that I'm really attracted to the artwork. I'm really attracted to the way each of the elements is represented and the way that the divine sort of cards I would typically reach for are represented. I really like this. So I just wanted to kind of show what this kind of a thing looks like. Like you can go through your decks and find which ones aces or pages or divine energies, and yours might look totally different. For some people, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, you might have different cards to attach to different figures that you want to invite into your circle, different energies. Maybe you're looking for, maybe you need to tap into fire, and so you form this sort of energetic container, and within that you invite a lot of the fire cards that are going to help you get done what you need to get done, or a lot of that Aries energy, for example, if you need a lot of that initiatory energy. And what's neat about the tarot for a magical tool in this way to sort of create circles, to create containers, to do magical work with, is that you have that option then to pick a card whose archetype really represents what it is you're trying to create, protect, attract, etc. Like the Ten of Cups is so beautiful and powerful for doing work around like love and family and connection, right? But if you're trying to get out of a sticky situation, the Six of Swords might be a really good energy to sort of call in and work with. It's literally, the possibilities are absolutely endless if you want to do magical work. And the thing I find about magical work is that the key thing we're trying to accomplish is we're trying to communicate with our subconscious mind using images, symbols. Sympathetic magic is essentially all about correspondences. So if I associate fire with creativity, then if I create a lot of symbols connecting with fire, that's going to help me tap into creativity. But this is personal to you. So if for you, the Six of Swords is a card that you don't want to invite because of maybe it has a negative connotation for you because, you know, that escape energy doesn't feel empowering. Maybe you want something more empowered like the Eight of Cups for a leaving kind of energy. But the point is you can customize it to what each card makes you think of, and then mobilize that in your work. Just because I like the moon and the sun, and I personally like to work with divine feminine and masculine in my magic, doesn't mean that you need to do that. Yours might look completely differently. You might want an energy like the world, which is much more comprehensive, or kind of contains both of those dualities in a singularity or in a more cohesive whole, instead of it being divided like that. That might feel a lot better for you. Or you might want to pull in astrology that matters to you. So you could pull in, this is my sun sign card, which is why I reached for it. I'm the sun sign Cancer. The chariot is associated with the sun sign of Cancer. I could pull out my astrological chart and work with that energetically to highlight different areas of my chart that I want to activate or lean into for work. There are so many ways that you can use your tarot deck to represent or correspond to something magically. Look at how powerful this Seven of Wands is. What an empowered card to work with energetically or magically if you were wanting to do a working around rebirth, right? Around empowerment. So there's so much you can do here. So much you can do here. And it's one of those things, it's like we underestimate. We don't always think about the tools we have. We often think about the tools we might want or need for a particular purpose or working. And if you've never done spell work, don't let this intimidate you. You don't have to do any of this, but you could work with cards in a magical way by simply pulling a single one for an intention. Instead of drawing a card to see what the cards have in store for you, instead thinking about what you want for your day. And I talked about this actually in a video I made for my Magical Unicorn tier in my YouTube membership here around re-empowering your daily spread. But there are ways that you can, instead of just taking what you're given with the tarot, so to speak, you could actually invoke what you want. So if it's like, you know what, I woke up, I'm really tired, I'm struggling with energy already, you know, my first coffee hasn't kicked in, I want to set an intention for the day that I'm going to get a lot done. So I might come through here and look for a card that's going to feel like that really powerful getting stuff done kind of vibe. So I might grab something like, I want to talk about that. Hold on. Okay, I might grab the Page of Wands, because the page has that, let me zoom this in. The page has more of this initiating kind of energy and fire, right? So this might be exactly the card I need to set out on my desk to remind me that today I'm focusing on being more productive, invoking in more of that energy. Or maybe it's the Emperor because of its association with Aries, and I want to pull that Aries energy in. Maybe what I need is the Knight of Swords, right? Maybe that's going to remind me of the intention I'm setting for the day. And if you look at this, if you take a little bit of the woo out and ground it again, then here's the way to look at something like this. You're choosing a card that visually represents what you want to focus on that day. There's actually nothing inherently magical about that, but you can make it magical. So this is the kind of practice, again, that can meet you where you are. It doesn't have to feel like witchcraft or spell work. It can just literally be, I really want to not overthink things today. I want to jump in and just get stuff done. Well, then the Knight of Swords is a great card to set out on your desk or your table so that you can focus on getting stuff done. Oh, I pulled it out, but I already hit it again. Oh, here we go. The Nine of Cups is a really great card, depending on the deck you're using. It's a really great card for focusing on feeling good about yourself, focusing on self-love or self-care. So this can be a really great card for gratitude, enjoying what you have, appreciating what's around you, all that kind of thing. So I mean, again, the possibilities are endless, but the idea is that you basically have a witchy altar in a box or in a bag or in a, what else could we have besides box, bag? Anyways, for your tarot is filled with archetypes that you can use to unlock different intentions. And that's the point, is that this is a magical tool that you can use if you choose. And I just wanted to talk about essentially like sort of circle casting in that way with tarot. But this is one of my favorites. Portable decks are great for this. I really love little decks like this. I haven't found another one that works quite this well, but I actually do have one more that deck other than this that I feel is highly specialized towards magical work. Let me grab that real quick. This one. Now there are other decks, of course, that work well for magical work, but this is designed for it. This is the Witchlings deck and book set, and it's filled with like a little spell book, which actually has little recommendations for spells, but just on its surface, you have cards, and each one has an intention. Vitality, motivation, confidence, sanctuary, happiness, clarity. These make great sort of hold each one, meditate on that idea, meditate on that concept, consider that you're invoking or pulling this energy in, and then set it out somewhere to remind yourself that that's what you're working on today. Pretty easy, simple, accessible, fairly subtle magic that you can do. But you don't need a very specialized deck. Like, as much as I really love these for being so specialized for this kind of work, literally tarot is so full of correspondences and things you can work with that way. So I hope that helped. I hope it gave you some ideas for how you can work with your decks in a more magical way, particularly when it comes to doing specific spell work and circle casting. Portable altars. These are also great for travel if you want to be able to do spell work on the go and you don't want to bring a bunch of candles, or you might be in a hotel and not be able to light things. Just think about all you have, the toolkit you have available when you have your deck. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for this latest Magic of Divination video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have requests for topics you want to see me cover in this Magic of Divination series, please leave them in the comments down below. I am compiling a list of your requests so I can get to as many of those as I can. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye!